Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's topic of conversation is secrets of accessing Akasha. All right, what are the secrets of accessing Akasha? Well, the fact of the matter is there are a variety of ways to do this. In the Initiation into Hermetics text by Franz Barden, in the 60 Skills system, we primarily access Akasha through the establishment of equilibrium using the four elements. This is, in my personal experience, the fastest, most effective, and safest way to do this. In fact, it can easily be done by virtually anybody in as little as 6 months, maybe even substantially less depending upon how much they practice. Now, why is this? Okay, by placing fire into the head, air into the chest, water into the abdomen, earth into the legs, it creates a state known as equilibrium. In this, the elements in the body, for a moment, equalize out. So all of the static contained within the body, or any imbalance from your natural kind of energetic state, goes away for a brief moment. When that brief moment happens, Akasha naturally arises, because Akasha is the emptiness out of which all of the elements came. And so by temporarily neutralizing them, for just a split second, Akasha comes back into form. Now, once this is done, over time, you can learn how to work with the Akasha directly. Now, again, one of the limits with working with Akasha is that it is extremely taxing on your vital force or vital energy. So to work with Akasha for any length of time, you have to have done a lot of work to reinforce your access to vital force. Being in good physical condition, doing a lot of ligament and tendon training, so on and so on and so on. All of this will increase the amount of vital force you have access to, and therefore the amount of Akasha you can then engage with. All right, this is the primary method used in the 60 Skills curriculum. What are some other methods? Well, as it turns out, there are quite a few. One, the single-pointed focus exercises, when you get to the point where you engage emptiness meditation, can also generate Akasha. Not too much, just a little bit. But when you get to that point where you're staring at rocks and the rock starts to flicker and disappear, that's when Akasha is coming into form. The strange part is in a lot of cases, if you're sitting there watching the rock flicker and disappear, and someone else is watching this happen, they'll see the rock flicker and disappear as well. It's a strange phenomenon, one that many people have commented upon over the years. Now, I'm not saying doing this is going to give you mastery of Akasha, if there even is such a thing. What I'm saying is it gives you access to a little bit of it, and this in turn gives you the ability to work with it directly. Now, okay, we've talked about the role of equilibrium using the four elements. We've talked about the role of strengthening the body to increase vital force so you can work with more of it. And we've talked about the role of emptiness meditation. What are some other ways that Akasha can be developed? Well, a near universal accompaniment of Akasha development is what people call Kundalini, or the rising of this latent force within the body up and out of the head. It's kind of a chicken and egg type argument. Does Kundalini result in the development of Akasha, or does development of Akasha result in the awakening of Kundalini? What's the relationship here? That's not entirely clear, but the one takeaway from that is if you're doing something that can activate Kundalini within the body, you can also count on having access to a little Akasha. So what are some of the better techniques for doing this? Well, on the one hand, you've got things like the micro or macrocosmic orbit. Pursued aggressively over as little as a 100-day period, many people can go through the awakening of the Kundalini in the body, assuming, in fact, that they're in decent physical shape and they're generating lots of vital force and so on and so forth. But the orbits are one of the primary ways by which a practitioner can generate Kundalini and thereby gain access to Akasha. Again, which comes first is a bit of a debate, but this seems to be a good way to do this. Things like Kundalini yoga also work, as can extremely aggressive forms of pranayama, where you're holding a full breath or an empty breath for a very long period of time. My suspicion is holding the empty breath with the lungs exhausted generates Akasha more efficiently, but again, this isn't exactly my specialty, so the vote's out on that one a little bit. So these are all ways that you can generate and become a master of Akasha, or at the very least increase your access to it. Now, what hasn't been said to this point is, as with any other primary force, one way to get better at working with it is simply to work with it a lot. Now, this is where working with Akasha brings some issues with it. Issues. It's draining upon your vital force. Akasha by itself is also fairly narcotic in nature. So the problem with this is the more you work with Akasha, the stronger at it you get, but the more draining on your vital force it is, and the more it tends to suck you into it. Many serious practitioners have periods in their life where they get totally absorbed into Akasha for weeks or months at a time. Happened for about 6 months with me. Now during this time I was completely useless, and I only ever dropped out of the state because eventually my vital force simply collapsed. At that point I was dumped out of the Akasha. I was sitting on a couch. It had been about 3 days since I'd had a bath, and my mother was looking at me like I was a crazy person, because up until that point I was. But like everything else, the more you work with something, the more of it you tend to have access to. So these are all the secrets to accessing more Akasha. Now, if you liked the subject of today's discussion, please hit the like button and the subscribe button down below. And if you would like to learn more about the 60 Skills curriculum, please check out the links contained in the box down below. Otherwise, train hard and be well.